This will be a quick video talking about something what is known as cascading combo box that you might have seen in the title. All it simply means is that on a form, when you select a country, say for example, I choose country USA, then I only see the state or the province of USA, or when I choose Canada, I only see that. And then when I choose a state for a country, then when I look at the city, I only see the names of the city. So you can apply this to in many different scenarios. Like somebody asked me a question about, I think they're having winter and summer tires. So when they choose winter, they only want to see the winter tire numbers. And then if you wanted to, you could keep doing that. So for that, I thought that the example of the city and the country would be pretty good. And you can apply this to any of your existing database because this information could be standing on its own and you'll understand it as I go through it. So that's the purpose of this video. Now, there are many different ways of doing this, and I've just did a research and I found this to be easy as we don't have to do too many Visual Basic codes. So I'm just going to go to the database tools and relationship window just to show you. So what I've done is I created these three tables. One table for country in which I only put a field called country, which is the primary key. Another one called table state in which I'm trying to type the names of the state and then also choose the country in there. And then another one for city in which I have city and just the state. Okay, and I'm just going to close this. So just to show you, in the country I only type 2 right now, but I can keep on adding more. And then in the state, I typed some provinces or state in Canada and USA. I just put the abbreviation. You could even put it the whole thing, and also the country. And then in the city, I've just added the name of the city and which province or state they are in respectively. Okay, so I've got these three things, and I've also created the relationship between them, which if you remember from, I did the lookup wizard and then I just did the connection through that, so that you may remember from the previous videos. And then what I did is I'm just going to right click on this table customer and design view. So then I say I wanted to type the customer's ID. Now in this I was going to get the information about the address, city, state, and the country and all of that information. So now I'll create a form for this, and then I'll get that form to pull up the information from these tables. Even though they are separate, because I haven't connected any of these fields to these tables because they don't need to be connected for our example, because I just need to pull the information from these places. So when you go and add more information, it will be visible to me when I'm doing that in the form. So I'm going to close this now, and I'm going to go to create. Now instead of using the form wizard, or from the more form wizard in 2007, I'm just going to go to form design, because this way I'll have more control over it. And I'm going to choose add existing fields. So I click it and I'm going to choose show all tables, and I'm going to choose the plus sign next to the table customer, and I'll take the customer ID and I'll just drop it up here. Then I'll take first name and I'll drop it here, last name, and I can drop it here. And remember, you can resize. Now when you do the form in this way, you have more control over each and every field and you don't have to do anything. When you do it through design view, all the fields are grouped together, but you could always fix the problem by right clicking on it, and then you go to the option called layout, and then you choose to remove the layout so that that field will not be attached to the other fields. So if you've done the form wizard, you can do this. And then I'll add the address, and I'll extend the address because we need more space for the address if you need it. And then the other ones I will not add now, because I'm going to do it differently, because I want to create a combo box for the country, state, and city and connect that combo box to these tables. Okay, but instead of doing it to the tables for the state and city, I'm going to create a query, and I'll explain that to you in few minutes as I go through the process. So I'm just going to add the country because I don't need to do any query for the country. But instead of adding the country field, I'm going to choose this button here, which is called the combo box. Click it, and I'm going to left click and hold it and drag it here, whatever space you want. And I'm going to choose the option that says I want the combo box to get the value from another table, which I do have it in a table. So I'm going to click next, and I'm going to choose table country, next, add the country field, next, next, next. And now I want to store the value because I want the table customer to have this value, and for that I have the field called country. Now for some reason I found that it doesn't show up here. It should have. So what I'll do is I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to add the country here, and I'll delete that, and I'll also add the state and the city so that I will get that in that list. I don't know why. I thought this should have shown up. Now when I go back to the combo box and I drag it, and then I'll say I want the combo box to get the value from a table, next, choose country, next, add the field, next, 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 and then I'll say store the value in country. Now you see it showed up. I don't know why it didn't show up earlier, and this will be stored in the table customer when I choose these things. Next, and then you can give it any names, or up here I'll just type the word country because the label should show up here, and I'll click finish. So that is done. And before I go ahead, I'm gonna right click on it and go to properties, or I can click on this property sheet and I'll go to other, and the name, I want to give this box a name because I need to use it. So I'll just call it CBO country because this is box is the combo country box. So you can give it any name. Just make sure you give it a name that you can recognize easily, and I can close this. So this is done, and now when I come to, I save my form and I'll just call it form customer, and I'll come to the front end. So here I have my drop down button. Okay, so that part is done. Now for the city and the state, I need to create a query. So I'm going to go to create, and I'm going to go to query wizard, simple query, and first I'll do it for the state. I'll add the state and the country. Next, I'll give it a field query state, and then I'll just modify, click finish. Now later on we're gonna, just in a few minutes, we're gonna put something here. So I'm just gonna leave that there, and I'll close it because I'll need to do it for the combo. Create query wizard, simple query, and this time I want to use the table city. Add the city and the state. Next, and I'll give it a name query city. And even if I just keep it open and finish it, it will just show me all the cities, which is fine for now. I'll close this. Now for the form from the home, I'll come back to the design view if you wanted to, and then I'll go to combo box. Now I'm going to add the combo box for the state. I'll add the box here. Again, I want to get the combo box from another table or query because in this case I wanted to look at the query. I'll click next, choose queries here, query state, next, and I only need the state from here, so I'll just choose that. Next, next, and it's going to show me all of them right now, US and Canada. Next, and I want to store the value in the state of the table customer. Next, and then up here I'll just say state, and I'll click finish because that state word will show up here. Now I'll make sure I'll click on this, go to property sheet, and change the name to CBO state. Now make sure you know how you are typing it, uppercase, and because these are case sensitive. I'll close this too now. Now I'll do the last combo box for the city. Drag it, drop it. I want the combo box from a query. Next, choose query, query city. Next, I only want the city. Next, 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 and here I'm going to store it in the city. finish, go to the property sheet, change the word, give it a meaningful name to it because we're going to use it. Now, the next step I'm going to do it, I had talked about it, I think in the 6th or the 7th video, where I showed you how when you have a word in a form, you can make that form to look up the values in the query. And that's what I'm going to show you now, that when somebody goes here and chooses country Canada, up here in the state, it should only show the Canadian states or the province. So I'm going to right click on the query state and go to the design view, and in the country I'm going to type something. So maybe you'll remember this. So what I'm going to type is forms, and in 2010 and 13 this will come up. I think in 2007 it doesn't. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to put the bracket forms and the bracket. So you'll have to put this manually. In 2010 and 13 you won't need to. I put an exclamation point, and then after that I need to choose the name of the form, which is form customer. So I'll just choose it for me. In 2007 you'll have to type it, exclamation. Now I need to look up the field CBO country, because that's the name I gave to this field. So that's what it says, CBO country. Now if I go and choose USA and I'll run the query, you see I only see USA. I'll come back to design view and I change this to Canada, come back to the query state, run it. Now I only see Canada. So this is what this is doing here, is that look in the form customer, and in that field. So this is good. I can save it and I can close this. Now I'll right click on the query city, go to design view, and in the state I'm going to say look at the forms with the brackets and exclamation, in the form customer, exclamation, and look for the field CBO state, so that whatever is in the state, it will only show me that state. And I can save it and I'll close it. So here I've chosen Canada, so I only see the Canadian state, and I say choose Ontario. Now in the city I will only see the Ontario states, which is Toronto and Niagara. Now the only problem is that when I go back and I start choosing USA, it's still showing me the Canadian states, not the US, because I need to tell it to do one simple thing. This could be fixed manually by hitting the refresh button, but then why bother when something can be done? So I'm going to come to the design view of the form, and I will click on the anyone. I can even click on the country, and I'm going to go to the property sheet, and in the event there is an after update, and I will start the dots and I'll go to the code builder and I click OK. Now this is something I was initially confused, because I need to now tell it that every time any of those values changes, make sure you do a re-query. So all I have to type is me dot, and then I need to type the names of the other fields. So CBO city dot re-query. So anytime the city is changed, make sure you re-query on the top too. And I'll do the same thing with CBO state, re-query. Save it and I'll close this. Now I'll go to the state. I'll again in the after update, I'll click the dot, code builder. Now I've got the CBO state, and up here I'll type me dot CBO country dot re-query, and I'll do the other one for the CBO city dot re-query, and I'll save it and I'll close this. Now I'll click in the city and I'll again go to the after update, choose that, code builder, click OK, and up here too I can put both of them. You might get away with not typing all of them, but I found that it didn't work initially. So CBO state, and also one for CBO country. So this is just telling it that go back and check again to get the new values. I'll hit save and I'll close this. Now let's see, up here, if this was a form, I can also add a title so that you can have the heading on the top. Okay, and I'll come to the form view. Now let's see, so if I'm just going to go back to Canada. I see the Canadian. Change this to USA. Now there it is, Georgia, Texas, and if I choose Georgia, I should get Atlanta and Macon, which are cities in Georgia. If I change Georgia to New York, I should get New York and Buffalo. And if I change it to Texas, I get Dallas and Houston. So let's see now, if I change this back to Canada, I get Ontario, Toronto, and Niagara. Change the Ontario to Alberta. There it is, Calgary. Now whatever information I enter here will show up in the table, and I'm just going to go next. And this might be USA, California, Hollywood. Okay, so I've just entered 2 and ignored the numbers because I deleted some records, and I'll close it. Now if I double click on the table customer, there is the 2 records I just entered. So this is what is known as cascading combo, and this is updating itself. So you can use it in many different scenarios. If you wanted to learn more, just do a Google search with those wordings and you'll find lots of information. There is a lot of visual basic codes also you can write to make this possible, but I feel this is the easiest way I could think of. Thanks for watching.